So I guess we just need someone from Prolifics to confirm when we have full attendance.
Yep.
Hey guys, Mike came up.
Hey, Mike.
Where did you put the, John, where did you put the video?
The video is under training. It's not shared with me. It's my drive.
It's my drive. Training.
There you go. So we had, Prolifics training part 1. There will also be 2, 3, 4. And then there was earlier discussion on the training agenda. I left it there.
Okay. Very good. Very good. Very good. Excellent. All right. So do we have everybody?
Yeah, I think we have everyone. We can start.
All right. So John, let's start recording.
All right. It is recording.
All right, so we're going to do a little of a recap of what we did yesterday and then jump right in with actually using the tool and doing some imports from ETL tools like Power Center. I just wanted to recap what I said yesterday, and the best way to do it is actually to put it in a few slides so that you get them to share internally. These are not external slides, obviously. So I took the information mostly from the agreement, and it's nothing new that I didn't say yesterday. But just to explain that as opposed to what you used to, which is reselling some IBM products like IGC, the Prolific Model Bridge is really a Prolific product, which is based on a rebranded, repackaged version of our Model Bridge. But also as opposed to our other MIMB OEM agreements, when MIMB is inside Informatica, IBM, all these kind of things, you have some additional aspects here in the sense that you have access to our full web application UI, which includes not only the import, but also all the metadata analysis tabs. So even independently of the export, you benefit following the import steps, the ability to do a full detailed metadata analysis in much higher level of details than what the target technology can do. And John will spend a lot of time today on the import and analysis aspect. Why we did that with you, it avoids you to write any software. You get basically direct access to our UI. We already talked yesterday about the support. You're responsible for centralizing the first level support, and then you create tickets on our second level support. As Informatica or IBM would do, you have access to exactly the same story. It's under your end user license agreement, and I will talk about it a little bit on the slide I presented yesterday. I added an tentative end user license agreement for Prolifix, where I took the MITI end user license agreement and renamed Meta Integration by Prolifix, so that at least there is something out there. So the customized file now, because it includes some files from conf and documentation, we renamed it this way, which is MIMB Prolifix customization. But everything else we talked about yesterday is the same. So if you go to Prolifix and you go shared with me and MIMB, where did you put this one, John? Is it on shared with me?
It's in my drive. Everything shared with me goes to all the partners. So
that's right.
Customization.
So Prolifix MIMB, and that's where it is. Yep. My drive, Prolifix MIMB. Yep, that's actually written here. So that's where it is. So back to that. That's what we said for the end user license agreement. As you know, we have a pretty large supported list of supported tools, but the PMB is configured and limited to a set of bridges, which are mostly about bringing all the missing metadata for the target MM and data governance product, which includes the one missing for IBM governance catalog. So from there, what I did to give you a reminder of what they are is I took that actually straight from the agreements. But the primary use cases are bringing metadata from third-party ETL, especially for IGC. Even data stage, we could be worth it because we can support any version independently of IIS, and also we pass the any SQL that is inside, so it goes in big details. But the primary use cases are these guys. Informatica Power Center, which is probably John is going to demo, the Microsoft, the Oracle, Talent, any ETL we support. We've also added the ability to import metadata from scripts, which is something which is very, very useful. You see a lot of people having huge data warehouse, but they don't necessarily have a nice ETL tool. Instead, they crank massive amount of scripts. And, like SQL Teradata script, in fact, it's not just BTEC, it's fast load, bulk load, all this kind of utility that we pass and you can bring in this way. Of course, for Oracle, IBM DB2, or SQL Server, or even in big data itself. This is one also that I don't think IBM exposed, but is probably surprisingly the most used tool. We have created an add-on to Microsoft Excel, which is a metadata add-on, which allows people to write mapping specifications. And they sometimes come from third-party tools. Sometimes an ETL we don't support, for example, ab initio. And somebody wants to bring ab initio. So they get reports from ab initio, and they push them as Excel, mappings in Excel, and we bring them in this way. The Excel mapping is actually very, very powerful. It's something that we can explain in some level of details in an advanced course at some point. So that is something that we can talk about, not right now, but the first level, we need to make sure you can bring ETL, then databases, and this. With respect to databases, all this is what I call data movement. These are not the databases. These are the database scripts, which is different. With respect to databases, again, IGC can bring database inside, but that's mostly a side effect of data stage jobs. That's the source of targets of data stage jobs. In fact, they reuse the metadata that are from the data stage. We natively can go any on these databases, and as we know from the development team of IGC that we touch on regular basis, we go in much greater level of details, even on IBM DB2 and IBM Netezza, simply because we parse every SQL in high level. We have advanced parsers of SQL views to the tables, stored procedures, all these sorts of activities. These are live connected to databases. We also have, in some cases, if you cannot access live a database, the ability to bring them as DDL. And we have also some other exoteric sources, such as bringing COBOL copybook, or now we have more and more data sampling driven metadata input, such as, for example, flat file from CSV, where we sample the data and can guess the data types and these kind of activities. So is MongoDB, JSON. So these are basically the scope of, the data movement and the data stores that we will bring in. This is something I'm going to skip. It's pretty much the state of the union at the time we did the agreement on where we are in parsing catalog metadata, meaning schema, table, column, data types, PKFK, versus parsing of views, versus parsing of stored procedures function, or DDL for all the different technologies. And, the most popular databases are done, and then sometimes we do some on demand when there is a real customer use case. We don't try to do the matrix until we have real use case and metadata. Regarding the export, as you know, it's the export to information governance catalog via the open IGC interface. So basically, that's not the way we bring metadata to IGC natively on their IMAM product, as in that case, we have another way for them. But this time, in order for partners like you to be in charge, independently of IBM, we use OpenIGC. So for the metadata coverage, we basically cover the data movement between existing data stores like DI tools, database scripts, data mappings, and the data stores themselves, RDBMS, Hive servers, or things like that. So nothing new here. This is just a recap. We put these slides over there. It was just to, to make sure you got all the information. And right now it's about time you know how to package, build that, do support. It's about time we bring our first power center in and start to analyze it. Any high-level question before I pass it to John?
No, at this time, I don't think.
Very well. And as I did some other correction, we'll update it on your Google Drive as usual. All right, take it away, John.
All right, thanks, Christian. So we're on to session 2. And we actually did a little bit of this yesterday towards the end, which was the packaging, but we're still going to alter it slightly because, as Christian pointed out, there's a new piece of the package. So we're all set there. Then we will install, make sure everything's running, and then we will import and analyze what we have. And then we will look at some special topics, remote bridge import export, and then look at the individual bridges briefly and talk about some of the common usage tricks of the trade that you should probably know about. Okay.
Can I
Yes,
ask a quick
please.
question, John?
Of course.
Most of the team have already installed.
Mm-hmm.
So, and they may or may not have done it right or wrong, but I understand yesterday's recap was for the purpose of making sure that everybody was doing it correctly.
Yes.
And by the way, that was very useful because
Excellent.
I had not applied the cumulative patch, which is why I asked you the question if I can apply the cumulative patch with the system running, and subsequently applied the cumulative patch during the call. So
Okay.
for this section, are we expecting people to make a new directory, follow your instructions, and get another working copy going, or if they've already done it and it can be verified, are we skipping ahead? So
Well, actually, I will walk through the process, definitely. People who are attending can certainly go through it with me. I don't want to turn this into a class where we are troubleshooting people's installations. So, so yes, they are welcome to follow along, but it is not going to be a situation of, absolute guarantee that they're going to be hands-on, because if they run into some issues, it may be worth a discussion, it may not, but I don't want to bog the class down with that. I mostly want to make sure that these are clean recordings that anyone later can come through and do these same steps. So yes, I will go step by step through the installation.
But again, also, as a reminder, also, what we explained yesterday and the last slide I provided is for one or two of you slides to do, but nobody else has to do anything. All you need to know is to go to your site where the software is, you unzip, and you start. In fact, John, what he's going to do is not going to reshow the packaging as somebody, or, you need a backup, to do it. One or two guys for free. And then that's it. You just unzip, and that's what John is going to do, just an unzip without repeating the packaging process, and go straight into license and start and import. That's what it is important.
So I think that's fair. But because we don't know who is going to be, primary build, gold copy build makers, and who's going to be client support, and who's going to be implementation support, it's good that everybody has the knowledge.
Oh, very good. That's the point.
The reality is that what I'm trying to avoid is that somebody who believes they have this already done, that they put the call on mute and they go do other work. I want to make sure everybody's still paying attention. That's why I'm trying to make sure everybody's engaged. Yeah,
okay, so John is going to do some surprise pauses and ask a question to a random name on the go-to. What did I just say?
Pop quiz.
It works for me, guys.
Watch out. Everybody will get a score at the end.
That's right.
All right, I'm shutting up.
Okay. All right. So, no, I appreciate your questions, Mike. And but let's go ahead and get started and do the installation. Now, as you know, the installation is fairly straightforward. The two big issues are, one, having the software packaged properly, which we did last time, and number two, having a license key. Now, in order to generate a license key, there is a utility in the software itself. So let me go ahead and take what I have all here. Here I have packaged, and I'm going to put it someplace else. I'll put it in my C folder, C drive, and just paste it.
And my assumption is that the host analyzer is producing a seed for you to generate a license key. So even though the package is portable within the host, the license key would not be. We're not going to include it. But my assumption is that if you were to then take the package with a license key to a different machine, it would detect an invalid MAC address or something like that, right?
Absolutely, and we'll look at the license in just a second, what's inside, and then you'll see exactly what we're keying on. All right, so basically to extract, I'm simply going to say extract here. Remember, now it's creating a folder that is the Prolifics metadata manager. And in fact, let me show you, while we're waiting for that to finish, let me show you what the license key looks like. So when we generate the host file, here's what it looks like inside. And of course, it has to bring up Visual Studio, a monster, just to look at a little file, but that's okay. All right. So what you can see is that we identify a host ID, which is actually the boot drive volume ID, okay, and then a MAC address. So we have both of those, and that determines the licensing. And then you can see that there is, of course, version information of what's been installed on that machine because it was generated by a copy of the software. And it also has information about the machine itself. This is very important for your use. When you get a host info file, one of the first things you will probably want to do is look at this information and see what's there. The database server doesn't really matter for you guys. That's just generic to our licensing, but in particular, the application server matters. And the application server here is basically determining that this machine has 8 CPUs, X amount of memory, etc. So it looks like a pretty good machine to be able to do this. They probably will not have a lot of problems. 12 megabytes might be small if they do too big an Informatica example, but in most cases it won't be a problem. And so you've got a good machine here that that the customer is using. This is very important to consider, that you have this kind of information when they generate the host ID or hostinfo.xml file, because it will tell you whether or not the machine they have is indeed sufficient for the purposes they're planning to use it for. And of course, if it's a really small machine, also it'll identify whether it's a VM or not. As you can imagine, one of the first things you want to do is set customer expectations then and remind them that, okay, you've got a nice demo box, but this is not going to be what you'll want to use for real world cases and in production. So, all right. We have a copy, so let's go ahead and update our directory structure, and we should see Prolifics model bridge. Okay, now the other thing you do is you run that software to generate the bridge, to generate the host info.xml file, and it's called host file gen. And if I run it, now I have an additional file out there, hostfile.xml. You send this in a ticket. So we go out there and go out to CITS and create a new ticket, and it will then be a request for a license. Okay, so the usage, that's great, etc. Put in the information, attach the host file, and you're good. Now, that said, we will generate the license and then attach that to the ticket, set it resolved, and you're all set. You will now have a license given back to you. I happen to have one already generated. So if we go out here, I take this one and right here, so copy, and I go down here now. In terms of the location for the license always goes in the conf folder inside the installation, okay? Paste it here, and I need to give it a precise name. And case matters, especially if you are doing the Linux side of things. These licenses work in both Linux and Windows. The only difference is that the Linux command is a .sh instead of a .bat for host file. All right, so we are fully licensed. We should be able to do what we need to do. Let me actually open that up briefly just to show you so you can see what licenses look like. Keep in mind, never edit the license. We recommend, you get it, don't worry about it. What you have is what you have. But don't edit the license because it is actually a file that looks like XML but is not quite. And so it's going to be something, and
don't edit the host file either.
Sure. Yes.
Because people try to outsmart the systems. It looks like this drive ID or a MAC address, but we do a checksum on these files, and sometimes because they open on file browsers and things, a lot of carriage return are added or files are changed. Just use the script to generate, send the host file, get an MIMB file, and copy it there. Just try to outsmart the system.
Good point, Christian.
Yeah, well, your key down the bottom there looks like a digital signature, so I'm sure it's bound to the values. So
it's exactly what it is. It's a checksum. It's no rocket science. We're not trying to do something and totally unbreakable. It's not like IBM software, Oracle software, as we keep joking. If you manage to install IGC, then you deserve a license because it's very hard. Because otherwise it's easy to install. We needed to do a protection.
That's right.
Well, you also didn't want copies in the wild, because I'm sure it's very powerful.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Yeah, plus you need to get paid, and so do we after.
Well, that's right. Although, without support, let's face it. Anyway, so as you can see, it identifies everything about this license. For example, expiration date, very important, version, worth noting. These are all things to look at. Just don't edit this file. Don't try to save it someplace. In addition, it has the extra tool of the lineage analyzer. In other words, to be able to use the Analyze tab, which we'll spend a lot of time on today. And then it has the import bridges and the export bridges. You can see, of course, as Christian pointed out, there's only one export bridge that you're commonly going to use. These other two are purely for debugging purposes. So in other words, if you harvest and you're having a problem, you've imported from one source and you're having a problem exporting out to IGC or whatever it is, one of the ways you can report that metadata to us is simply by exporting out to our neutral meta model format. And we have one that has multiple models and one that's for a single model. And it just depends on the source, the metadata source you're coming from as to which should be used. Yes?
I noticed that there is no platform or version associated with the bridges. So our assumption is that they work for any platform and any version?
Correct.
They certainly do. Keep in mind that the bridge documentation does identify if you're trying to come from some version that's just so old that we never had a bridge for it or something like that.
The point is when you get an input from data stage or an input for Power Center, it's for any version of a supported of a data stage or Power Center. Now that particular supported version is somewhere else, is on the supported tools. But before we get there, get back to the tab for a second. It's an opportunity for me to talk about another business aspect that I forgot to say. This is when we give you a license key for internal purpose, for demos, for your sales, for support. We enable every bridge that is supported by the agreement, whether you need it or not. We give you every import we can do. and every export we can do. And we also put an expiration date that is usually for the next 6 months or whatever for whatever it is for support and demo purpose, right? So these are the kind of license key for that. However, when you send a license to a customer, there are three types actually. There is eval license, and then there is purchase license. And purchase license are themselves split into two categories. You can sell a perpetual license or a subscription license. So when we generate a license key for you, we have a whole process. I think John already taught you how to do that for the generation of license, where it's done over Jira, where you put exactly what the customer needs. So the customer may need Power Center to, IGC for an evaluation license. So then the license will be for that host, only from Power Center to IGC, and only for a month. Once it's purchased, if they purchase a perpetual license, then the next license key that will be generated will have no expiration date. It will be perpetual, so it will work forever. If it's a subscription, then like a year subscription, then it will have a 1 year validation until they renew the subscription with you guys. Okay, so that's basically where this information goes inside the importance of the expiration date and the tools. Now, with respect to a given version, that is not in the file. There is a bridge ID, but any supported version is there. So if we go supported tools, or John will show you on the supported tool on a separate tab if you want quickly. And so, you'll see the version out there.
We did that yesterday too to look.
Yeah, we did that yesterday.
Tools, yeah.
It makes sense? Any question about that?
It makes complete sense, but do you ever have situations where a customer basically takes the trial, mines their application for 30 days, and then says, thank you, I'll stay up to date manually from now on out?
Yeah, it's you guys' job to protect yourself and therefore protect us. But do you see people abusing? Like any migration, software, like, can I try your migration from one tool to another tool? Or can I harvest, the metadata? I'm not happy, I'm not going to pay, but, now that I got the metadata inside, thank you very much. So I would say this is where, Prolifix must be pro on that. You do that services all the time. So don't get abused. Make sure you get agreement contracts that if the product is not purchased, is not licensed, all the produced metadata must be destroyed, and the software, any copy of the software must be removed.